So I made a big mess in my fabric closet, and as I was starting to put things away, I thought, maybe it's time to play with neutrals and laces and see how I feel about those. And so I had this piece of fabric, and I think the way I got these wonderful little marks on them was tying a bottle cap around it, and then just like a rubber band around a bottle cap in it, and then did some tea dyeing. But it seemed like I could do a little book, just a little one. I was thinking about it like this, because then I can do something on these panels and it would fold in, but then I could also embroider the outside. And I'm thinking I'm probably going to stick mostly in neutrals, but maybe not. We'll see where it goes. I just figured I'd have a little play, so I'd turn the camera on while I decided maybe what I want to put in here. I was kind of thinking just laces, a little bit of stitch to hold things down, just a very simple little book, you know, lace collage, and then I could stitch over it. That would work, because it doesn't have to be hard. It shouldn't be hard. It should be fun. It should be something that you enjoy working on. If you find that the colors are just really throwing you off, well, then just put it aside. Don't pressure yourself to work on something. So if I'm thinking about a center, just had a thought about how I might construct this. Now, and you could, when you put it together, you could do it like this, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make each individual panel, and then I will attach it to here after I've done the stitching on the back side. That's what I'm thinking. And I'm going to build these panels with lace. It's got a little bit of green on it, so I don't necessarily, but I could cut the green part away. Nah, that shows too much. We'll just leave that. And it doesn't have to stay within these edges. It could come down over the edges, but I think I'm going to try and stay within my edges. Kind of like that. Of this. Okay, I'm gonna have to get some of that now. The choice is, do I want to just cut a random piece, or do I want to cut a flower out? Might be kind of big, but let's see what it looks like. All right, just kind of big, but I think we can make that work. So what if I just started thinking about layering things? Or would I want that to go on the front? I might leave that one to go on the front. Although I'm thinking the front is going to be just, yeah, the front's going to be all stitch. That's where I want to get the texture for the front. Okay, I just made one decision. Boom. I like that kind of hanging off the edge. Maybe over here. There's one that's smaller that would make me happier, I think. Maybe this one over here. Let's see. I think that size is better. I had a bunch of stuff that was tea dyed or coffee dyed or something, so it wasn't bright white anymore, and these are all just little scraps. And it's not that I couldn't do the white, but it's just kind of shocking. It's just not quite the color I was going for. That's not white, but it just doesn't quite. I like those with it. Like this. We're just going to cut this section in here. So this is kind of an experiment for me. I don't do a lot of things with lace, but I love looking at it. So we'll see. Do I enjoy working with it? Is it just that I haven't done it before? Sometimes you don't know until you start playing around with it. Well, yeah, I actually like that more than I thought, or nope, I just like looking at other people do it. I don't know. We're going to find out. Okay, so I'm going to turn the camera off and I will come back after I've picked out some pieces that we can start to collage. I'm back. So what I did is just cut some pieces in the colors that I liked. I didn't want to go super light until maybe I get up to the top. I'm not worried if I'm not going to see any of this background, but because it's lace, I like that the colors all work together. And I just cut some small pieces, and I still want to keep these as 3 individual things. And in fact, we're just going to make it really easy, and we're going to take this away. So now I've got 3 pieces of fabric that I want to build up as backgrounds to stitch on. Once I have the backgrounds down, then I can start stitching. And I'm going to do it by just making a collage, and it's not even a collage like I'm trying to make it appear to look like something. It's just, you know, you make Franken papers if you work with paper. It's just an all over something that I want to do. Just all over to add texture, and then you're going to stitch through this. And because this is lace and I'm using my softer stuff, it's going to be interesting to stitch through. Shouldn't be too challenging. And this is very flimsy. This is just an old sheet that's really tired. So you want something that's still going to be, you know, soft enough, not too thick, but by the time I get the lace piled up here, it's going to be fine. All right, we're going to bring this here, here. Yeah. You can use the back side, use the front side. There's no rules, especially when you're doing it just because, right? I'm going to take some of the stiffer stuff. Again, this is just, we're going to build up a background. Don't have enough, you pick more. And you don't have to do little pieces like this. You could do big pieces. You could do 3 pieces of lace and call it done. I think I just like to have an excuse to sit and do some, even just tacking stitches is fun for me. I like it when I have something kind of open like this, because then once you pile it, okay, say these 3 were stitched down together, and then you pile it over there, you're going to see a little bit of it, but you're going to have some variety. And we're going to cut these 2 long ones. And you don't have to do the whole thing, but for me, I want to have something that I can sit and stitch on without having to put it in a hoop. Because I don't know why, but hoops and me are not the best of friends, so I don't use them. If there's something, you know, a tool that doesn't work for you as well as it works for somebody else, don't beat yourself up and say, oh, well, you know, this fabulous artist that I love to see all her beautiful work, and she uses, you know, this particular tool, and, you know, I use it, and it just feels awkward in my hands no matter how long I practice with it. Well, let it go. I see so many beautiful embroidery artists that use hoops, and I used to feel like an idiot because for me, a hoop was just a lesson in frustration. They just didn't work for me. And I finally just said, you know what? It's not my thing. Sometimes I can use one. If I'm working really small, I can use one. But it's not my first go-to like it is for some people. I also don't do a lot of really fine work. And that can make a difference. All right, I'm just divvying this up. A few pieces here, a few pieces. I may not have enough. I may need more. And then what I'm going to do is use my trusty little glue stick. My little glue stick will help me get it to stick down long enough then to get, you know, and you can do it with pins again. Pins and I'm kind of a klutz when I have the pins in things, so I tend to not use them. And I don't worry if I've cut more than I needed, because chances are I'm going to do something else with fabric and fibers and lace, and I'll be able to use it, so that's fine. I like this. And you might have a different way of doing something like that, and more power to you. That's the one that's got green on it. All right, sometimes we just need some little fillers. Okay, let's just see what we've got when we start trying to arrange this. We'll just focus on just one. I like having some stuff hang over the edges. Come at an angle, doesn't have to be straight. So I can tell already I need more lace, and that's fine. Absolutely fine. I like to have things overlapping just a little bit. You're going to get different heights. I like that. If you don't like it, then you can make your stuff all the same height. You just do what makes you happy. You know, one thing you could do is just take one piece of lace and cover the whole thing like that, and that would give you a thicker background. But I like the variety here. It's just putting together a puzzle without having a picture of what the final puzzle is supposed to look like. You can go sideways. And don't worry, it doesn't have to, like, I could leave that open. That's totally fine. I could leave that open, but you know how easy it is just to grab a little piece then and tack that down. And it doesn't matter if I'm using the same piece of lace, because by the time you start stitching all over it, it's going to look so different. Put that one here and put the bigger one up here. And I could do something different right here. Let's see. That to it, and I kind of want something else right here. Now you could absolutely cut all these beautiful pieces out of your lace and be very particular about how you did that. We do this, and then we do that. That feels pretty good. All right. Now I'm going to take my glue stick. Now you could, you know, if you had some interfacing, you could also do that. You could put your little fusible interfacing down. And I'm not coordinated enough to keep track of these to like do the embroidery and then tack them down at that time, but maybe you are. You know, and it's not an exact science. If you pick it up and suddenly, uh-oh, you know, I forgot to glue part of it down, don't worry about it. There are many, many things that you're going to be able to fix once you start stitching. And I try to not glue every single edge down because, you know, I can move things around. I like the glue stick because then I can easily just kind of undo it and move something around if I need to. You know, and I could have just gone ahead and put glue all over the fabric before I started. And you can do that and then hit it with your iron. And that'll kind of hold it for while you're doing that. But I tend to move mine around so much that it's just, this is just enough. See, already I'm putting that down differently and I'm not going to worry about it. Put the glue on the back of your little piece, that's fine too. So it looks like a hot mess, right? But hot messes are good because hot messes mean something's melting, and the melting is going to merge all these things together and it's going to be yummy good stuff. Alrighty. I would say just about good enough. If I wanted to give myself a guideline, you know, I don't really want to have a rule, but if I want to give myself a guideline when I do something like this, it would probably be if I decide that I don't want to see the edges, then I want to cover the edges. Because once everything's stitched down, I can take my seam ripper if I want to, or I could do it beforehand, and I could rip at it. If I want to hide the edges, that's one thing. If I decide I want perfect edges, when I'm all done getting these tacked down, I could come along, turn this over, and come along with my scissors. And I'll probably end up doing that, if only to make sure that things are going to fit nicely in my piece, you know, because I don't have a whole lot of room when things are going to fold over. So maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will cut the edges back and then do like a blanket stitch around it. And if that's the case, then maybe I don't need to have all of these hanging over the edge, and I can even bring them in a little more. See, change your mind as you go. It's fine. Some of the really pretty stuff, if I want to make sure I'm going to keep it when I trim things down, then I'll just move it. Make it work. Okay, there's the first panel, and it's going to go inside here, but not until I've got the stitching done. Okay, I am back and I have all 3 panels glued down, and by glued down I mean I just have the lace tacked down with my little glue stick. And I'm going to come in here tonight and I'm just going to do little tacking stitches to make sure that it's all down. But you can see how it doesn't quite fit the way it did before. I need to have space in between here. So once I have everything stitched down, I'm just going to trim off my edges, and then when I'm all done with the stitching on these pieces, I can decide if I want to do a blanket stitch or add trim or something else around the outside edges. And the other part of this, I'm not worried about this side, but on the outside, what's going to be the outside cover, I am going to start thinking about how I might stitch this. And I have options. If you're going to do something like this, you might decide you want to cover the entire thing with lace as well and stitch into it, and that would be beautiful. But I think I like the idea of stitching the outside cover, and so it would just be simple embroidery on the outside, and then when you open it in you will have the explosion of laces. So that is what I think I'm going to do with that, and I will go ahead and get things tacked down and then come back when I'm doing some embroidery and show you how things progress.